As we enter the new year campaign, 2016 is kicking into full gear. We are less than a month away from the Iowa caucuses, but still a long way to go for the candidates to capture the nomination. Political author Jon Allen is in Washington. Jon, great to see you.
Good to see you, Contessa.
All right, heading into this new year, where do the candidates in both parties stand?
Well, I think right now you've got to look at the Republican field as being led pretty exclusively by Donald Trump. The issue for him is that Ted Cruz is leading in some of the polls in the first in the nation caucuses in Iowa, and that could, of course, upset the balance for Trump, I guess. But he's got a pretty solid lead in most of the state-by-state polls. On the Democratic side, same thing for Hillary Clinton. She trails Bernie Sanders in New Hampshire by some standards in some polls, in most polls, but generally speaking has a big lead over Bernie Sanders in the rest of the country. So those are your front runners, and if somebody else makes it, that'll be an upset.
All right, Hillary Clinton deploying the big gun in New Hampshire. She's bringing out Bill Clinton, the former president, to try and tackle some turf where Bernie Sanders is leading. And yet Bernie Sanders has raised $33 million in the fourth quarter. Is he still a contender?
Well, now he's the millionaire class.
Really?
Yeah, look, I think he's a contender up until the point at which people start voting and voting for Clinton, if that happens. I mean, look, polls can change very quickly if a candidate has success or another candidate has a failure. So he has an opportunity, but what Bernie Sanders has failed to do to this point is to really break into a lot of the big Democratic constituencies. When you're talking about African American voters, when you're talking about Latino voters, when you're talking about women voters of all races and ethnicities. So for him to be a factor on the Democratic side and to actually push Hillary Clinton and potentially win, he's got to start making some inroads with groups outside of white men.
When we look at Hillary Clinton campaigning alongside her husband, she's doing it at a time when Donald Trump is treating her like the presumed frontrunner, and he's also taking aim at the former president and allegations of sexual abuse in the past, and also his predilection for extramarital affairs. In this case, is that going to be damaging to Hillary Clinton, or does it somehow backfire against Donald Trump for bringing it up, and Donald Trump, of all people?
Well, I've yet to see the thing that backfires on Donald Trump. So, and certainly in a Republican primary, it's not going to hurt him. If anything, I think that's a unifying theme for a lot of the folks who would think about voting for Donald Trump. That said, in the past, when Bill Clinton's indiscretions, predilections, as you put it, have surfaced, sometimes those have yielded some of Hillary Clinton's best poll numbers. People see her as an aggrieved party rather than somebody who's guilty of something in those situations, or at least they have in the past. So that could have a possible backlash effect that's helpful to her, not only in the primary, but maybe if that continues later in the general election. And then the other issue, of course, is every minute that Donald Trump or anybody else is attacking Bill Clinton, they're not attacking Hillary Clinton, and I would think that would generally be helpful to her.
The other big target for Donald Trump has been what appears to be his closest challenger in the Republican side of things, Ted Cruz. And Cruz is posing a strong challenge, especially in Iowa. He has almost twice the evangelical support that Donald Trump does, especially if you're looking just within the last month or so. Donald Trump seems to be trying to take some aim at that. He was questioning today the bona fides of Ted Cruz's evangelical support because Ted Cruz has Cuban heritage. But then here's the way that the conversation went when John Dickerson was talking to him about that.
I think of evangelicals, and I guess I am, I'm Presbyterian, I'm Protestant, but I don't see it as coming out of Cuba.
Do you think that voters buy that Donald Trump is evangelical, and do they care whether he's evangelical or not?
I'm not sure that Donald Trump would be the poster boy for evangelicalism. I mean, honestly, there's not like an effort there to spread the faith that anyone has seen before. While evangelicals are Protestant, as is Trump, the connection between the Presbyterian Church and most evangelicals and evangelism is pretty thin. So I think that he's trying to make something there that doesn't exist. But whether that's going to hurt him or not, I think Donald Trump's voters are already with him and are not voting for him because they believe he's an evangelical Christian.
As a longtime reporter on the goings-on in Washington, D.C., I got to ask you about the news of the day, this conflict that is roiling between Saudi Arabia and Iran right now. And the United States has been fairly subdued in its response to it. How much is at stake for lawmakers on Capitol Hill, these candidates who are running for president, for the man who occupies the White House right now, because of how much Saudi princes, Saudi money influences American politics?
Well, I think certainly the Saudi Arabian government and the elite in Saudi Arabia have had a great relationship with the United States government and both parties for many, many years. The United States sells a lot of weapons to Saudi Arabia, whether you're talking about bombs, whether you're talking about planes, whether you're talking about missiles. So the relationship there has been very strong. I think there's obviously a lot of tension over this Iranian nuclear deal. The situation with the embassy in Tehran has heightened all of that. And I think on both sides there's going to be a re-examination of relationships everywhere. But over time, the Saudi Arabian government has been an ally to the United States and has been treated as such. Obviously, the Iranian government has not been an ally of the United States and has not been treated as such.
Yeah.
So, generally speaking, the leanings are much closer to Saudi Arabia.
Jon Allen, nice to talk to you. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Contessa.